crypto show, baby. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you all for being here. And what a crazy, what's a good word to use? Pandemonium-like day we had here in the market. The altcoins were doing bad, and then they were doing great, and now they're doing bad, and Bitcoin just seems to hold where it's been holding, the average, if you will. We were up at 105, down at 101, up at 104, down at 103. What is going on in the market? And Bitcoin stealing a large share back from the altcoins here. As you can see, Bitcoin dominance taking a little bit of a pump-a-lump, baby. A pump-a-lump on the day. This is the daily candle. Over the past 2 days, Bitcoin has taken a bit back here from the altcoins, up about 1.62%. But we have to keep in mind that that's coming from all the altcoins, baby. All the altcoins and Tether taking some percentages back. USDT Tether dominance starting to make a little bit of a comeback here, and you know, there's a lot of signs here in the market that that are confusing, that are honestly confusing. They're confusing a lot of people. They're confusing traders. I just hopped in along and I'm down on it a little bit, right? On a swing long, right? On a swing long position over here on SUI. I got into this at about 390, 391 area. And you know, we're down a little bit here. We got in, look at this. You guys love, hey, Boys Crypto does it too. You guys like when you long the top, baby. When you long the top, we got out of our trade. And you know, the move I made today, it's all over here outlined on Twitter for you guys, what I was doing. You know, I got out of the SUI trade. It was looking really, really bad. I tried to jump on a faster horse. Got that faster horse moving to the upside. Took a 10x position out on XRP. Was a monumental mover to the upside. And then here, I'll just show you guys. I'll show you guys where we're sitting. I got you. So I had a monumental move on XRP to the upside. Took profits on that. And then rotated back in the SUI. The leverage was a little off. And I was like, right? Position history. This was all today, right? 5:15. We closed our SUI trade for a massive 38% gainer. Could have been a lot more had we closed higher, but the market was looking very, very weak, right? And almost as soon as we sold, we started seeing some big div form on the 15-minute time frame. So I was analyzing the altcoins and I was like, wow, I could take advantage of this. I could take advantage of a move to the upside out of XRP, bouncing off that 242 high volume node on the daily. And I said, ooh, that could be a juicy play. And I rode that up to about 247, took profits about 15%, got into SUI, cut it off about 18 or about 7% loss, right, on that one. And now we're currently sitting in a swing SUI long. And the whole purpose of today, right, I saw an opportunity to be able to accumulate more SUI. And now I've accumulated about 30% more SUI on this swing long play, and I've only bumped up the liquidation price, right, by about 40 cents from where it originally was on that swing long. And you know, of course, I'm not going to go to liquidation, but I thought the risk reward was definitely worth it there for SUI and my risk appetite, and it ended up paying off big time, baby, big time. Looks really good. This position's still down about 3% on the day, and I expect that to reverse. We're going to go on over here, and I'm going to show you guys exactly what I'm looking at. Let me get out of Blowfin there, but you guys can follow along with me here at Boys Crypto 102. If you guys are like, what's Boys Crypto doing? And I post everything all on here, and I'll tell you when I'm in, I'll tell you when I'm out, I'll tell you where my stop loss is, and it's all for free. It's just my ideas. It's not financial advice. But man, I even posted here, wow, trade not going so good so far. Low lev, but we were nuking, man. I was like, oh my gosh, we longed the top, but there were signs, there were reasons why I longed. We were consolidating above the 5-minute 200 SMA, and I said, baby, this is the time. This is the signal. And I hopped on in and we just nuked right beneath it. It happens. It happens to the best traders. Not all traders are going to win every single trade. That's okay. We're still holding on to it. And I still believe in SUI here on the macro. And I'm going to go on over that. But we're going to start every single day. We're going to start today like we do every single day. We're going to dive on into a Bitcoin, baby. A lot of red on the day throughout the altcoins and a lot of panic in the market. We're going to go on over it, baby. Oh, I'm sorry, Sid Nasty Kid, about Jazz me, brother. I saw that taking a little bit of a nuker there on the day. Woo! Yeah, hey, and honestly, look, it's going to follow the rest of the altcoins. The majority of these altcoins, you see a red day in Bitcoin, right? With Bitcoin dominance starting to pop up to the upside, you're going to see red across the altcoin market. And honestly, whether you were in Jasmine, Optimism, Theta, anything, you would have had the same amount of losses in the past 24 hours, right, on average. So that's just what I'm looking at here for the altcoins. We got to look at Bitcoin, everybody. We got to look at Bitcoin. Today was a wild ride in the market. Let's look at this daily candle here. It's actually quite insane. You know, and we were speculating on Bitcoin potentially going sideways in a flag, and we are still in there. It wasn't looking like that for most of the day. Coming down here, when this was a solid candle, I was looking at this like, right? I wasn't panicking or anything, but I was looking at it with the danger that it deserved. Like, I was like, wow, if we start losing that wick, we could start rolling over really, really quickly to the 21. And then just have like a potential one of these candles to the downside. Bart Simpson maybe to the downside. That's a pattern we haven't seen in a long time, and not a pattern we want to see ever again in the crypto space. In my opinion, they seem to never work out to the upside, but they always work out to the downside, don't they? Very, very interesting. So Bitcoin consolidating here on the daily, despite the price action we had today. I would say nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. Bitcoin down just 0.03% on the day, despite the carnage. We opened up this candle at 103.4. We fell to 101.3, about a $2,000 drop. We came up to 104,992. 104,192. This was a giant whipsaw candle here for BTC, and you can see that here on the 2-hour time frame. Look at this. This was absolute carnage. We opened up the day. In a way I didn't like, right? Where was it? Where was the market open today? Here, right? We opened up today, and we started dumping. And, you know, the data we got today wasn't necessarily bad. And then Jerome Powell came out, didn't really speak a lot about the economy, was probably just going to, was going to shrug his shoulders again on any kind of data that we just got in, because he didn't have time to go over it, and didn't take any questions at the end of the press conference. Very, very interesting. But, you know, Bitcoin just consolidating up in this range, and this caught everybody off guard. Does this not look like a double top here? Look at this. Look at this. That M-shaped pattern. Don't the whales love? They know how we trade. They know how retail trades, baby. They know. They said, hey, we get this M-shape looking, everybody's going to short, and we'll have squeeze potential to the upside, and they ripped it, baby. They ripped it. Now the people who were short not only got stopped, if they sold their spot, now they're wondering, do we get back in? Do we get back in? Is this the time? Well, we're going to dive on into that. I will say this. From a 4-hour time frame perspective, you don't see a lot of confusion like this that often. Look at this double top. And then you got a double bottom here. To me, whenever you have a situation like that, double top and double bottom, right? You can look at it as an M, or you can look at it as a W. And to me, this is just our new range. This has to be our new range. We've touched this once, twice, 3 times, right? 4 times, 5 times. We've touched this way more times, right? Like 10 or 11 times. This has to be our new range, and we have to respect it. But what's unique about this new range is that the high volume nodes, or the point of controls, are so close in length to one another. There is definitely a tug-of-war battle going on here. Push, pull, yin-yang between the bulls and the bears. Let's dive on to Bitcoin on the 1-minute time frame, because I could already see we're getting a little bit of a move, baby. We're getting a little bit of a pump a lump to the upside, 103.6. This has been a crazy day today in the market. If you guys have been trading, if you've been sticking along with me, I'll tell you guys it wasn't an easy ride. We were biting our nails for a lot of the day. I was staring at the screen. My eyes became bloodshot at one point. It was absolutely crazy. Crazy the life of a trader, man. Crazy the life of a trader. Before we dive on in any further, I want to give a special shout out to each and every single one of you in the chat. April, Wanda, Sleep, what's going on, brother? MH, Sin Nasty Kid, you guys are always here with me, kicking it with me on these weeknights and on the weekend nights, baby. Hey, shout out to you guys. Thank you for being here. Drop your coins, drop your questions in the chat, guys. I want to hear what you guys have to say about the market today. What Shop City price action? Crazy for the altcoins. And I will say this. I still maintain my thesis that Bitcoin dominance has topped. We'll go over that in a little bit, but right now we just got to take a peek at Bitcoin here. We are now pinging in between these two. These are very equal, are they not? Pretty equal high volume nodes. You could argue Boys Crypto we're above the point of control, just breaking above the 30-minute 200 SMA. Very bullish sign. Golden cross pending. We're approaching, and you know this will update based off of what I'm looking at if I zoom on in. But let's zoom on out here, get the whole feel. And, you know, that's looking okay. We're above the high, by definition, we are above the point of control. However, I'm not going to disregard the fact that there is a huge node above us at about just shy of 104,000. North of that, we really don't have a lot. We do not have a lot before visiting the all-time high. This candle went to try and take it, baby. We get over this candle, the ball rolling down the hill scenario. We have our ball. We're down up onto the next hill, baby. If the bulls could give us enough to get off of this slope, and it could happen tonight, it could happen fast, it could happen when the Americans are sleeping, and it would catch everybody on a surprise, right? May I remind you, I have to remind you guys of this, right? And I know you guys may know this. The last time, when did Bitcoin hit an all-time high? This move right here, right, from 89 up to 110 was truly historic. This happened in about a week's worth of time. This was a monumental pump to the upside where we hit the all-time high. And it happened it happened right here overnight when nobody was paying attention, right? Let's look at it here. 1,500, 1,300, right? And it happened after market close, right? Over here on Sunday. This was on a Sunday. This was on the weekend. And you had a monumental 12-hour time period where Bitcoin went for the all-time high in and of itself on a low liquidity Sunday. Anything could happen here in crypto. And as I'm looking at the charts right now, we're ranging in a range that we have not been in for a very long period of time. The daily looks good. The 21 coming up in the price action. This daily candle turning around, believe it or not, on a bullish hammer. I mean, you could call it an indecision doji, but if we get a little bit more of a pumpage, that would be a bullish hammer. And tomorrow we could see some absolute fireworks in the market. Low liquidity Friday looks juicy to the upside. Man, I think the all-time highs are coming very, very soon for Bitcoin. I see a lot of negative sentiment on X. I see a lot of people saying, oh, pull back, pull back, pull back. And that's what everybody was saying, right? Through this run, right, had major pump and dump vibes, right? We had big moves up, lead to big moves down, and people were like, oh, wait for the pullback, wait for the pullback, wait for the support resistance retest. And we never got it. We never got there. We just went and we were gone, baby. We were gone. This was that altcoin move. And, you know, I think a move like this is coming here on the horizon. We just got, like we did back here, a move above the daily 200 SMA, consolidate. Another pump and dump. Get above the daily 200 SMA, consolidate, pump, and now we're consolidating again. Much like back here, before we went on that monumental moonshot for BTC to the upside. 21s with price action, supporting it, baby. And we are currently in a flag. Let me look at this on the 6 hour. I haven't done that. 6 hour time frame, baby. And, you know, this is looking good. It's looking good for reversal out of that potential double top. And you could say that this is our flag here. You could say that this is our flag. There's nothing wrong with this. Yeah, it is a little bumpy there around the flagpole, but I'll call that a flag. Woo! I'll call that a shout out to Monster giving me the belly burps here. But you could call this a flag, and it's getting tight, ladies and gentlemen, around the high volume node of the range. Or not of the range of this local range right here, but if we zoom on out, we are way clear above the high volume node sitting down here at about 96,000. Is a retest of that likely? It could definitely happen, but I'll tell you this, when we go for the all-time high break for BTC, I don't know that we'll ever look back. Did we ever look back here? Not for a long time. We didn't even get past the prior high. Did we test the prior high? No, we did not. Not according to Bitcoin Perpetuals futures contracts here on Binance. You got pretty close, right? And historically, Bitcoin does love to do this. But once you go on that initial run, it's very, very difficult to catch. That's when FOMO kicks in and people say, oh my gosh, I got to get Bitcoin before it's worth $150,000. And then they'll get dunked on eventually when enough longs start to accumulate. A lot of longs, a lot of shorts taken out of the market today. A lot of people like Sleep, brother. I saw you saying getting stopped. You're not alone, man. You're not alone. I got stopped on one of my trades today, or I cut off one of my trades early today for a realized loss. It happens, man. It happens to the best of traders. And, you know, what a bullish engulfing candle here on the 4 hour. This thing looks spicy. This thing looks like it could get ready to go, baby. And could we do a shoulder, head, right shoulder? Absolutely. I'm not taking that out of the equation. Stochastics are pointing violently to the upside. The higher time frames are saying, no, the shoulder, head, right shoulder isn't likely. Look at the 8 hour looking, saying, hey, we're ready to go. The last time we were at these prices, we were overbought. It's given enough time for the 8 hour stochastic oscillator to start resetting here. We get above that high volume node sitting just above us at about 103.8, 103.9. I think we could be gone. I think we could be gone. That's a double bottom here on the 4 hour. Double bottom. W's like to break out. What? Like we do M's. Like we do M's. You know, you break out from the neckline here, and that takes you all the way up to 107, 108. We get to 107, 108. Are people going to be shorting at 107, 108? I can't tell you what other people are going to be doing, but I'm certainly not. No way, no. Man, shout out to you guys listening to my little Bitcoin rant right off the ripper. All right, everybody, let's dive on into the chat. Thank you guys for being here. That's my little rant here on Bitcoin. End of the day, right? Big picture, we are ranging. This is confirmed that this is a range to me. That double bottom and double top. You can't view it, in my opinion, any other way. We've double topped here, right? Saying that we'd break down, and we double bottomed here, saying that we'll break up. And until the charts give us a clear, decisive decision, right, when it comes to price direction, which would be what? This and a retest and boom? Or this and a retest and boom? To me, on Bitcoin, there's not really any trade. Why am I building a swing long position on the altcoins? Well, because I think if Bitcoin breaks the all-time high, I think you're going to see some of these altcoins move like they've never had before. What happened the last time Bitcoin broke its all-time high? Do you guys remember this back here? This was the Trump rally, baby. When you started cracking it, when was it? November 7th, November 8th? When we cracked here, this was that mini alt season that we had. November 5th. Yeah, that was Tuesday. And then the polls started coming in and we started ripping, baby. You know, Kamala started winning, shop city price action. Regardless how you feel about politics, the entire market was looking forward to Trump winning or hoping or betting on that Trump was winning. That's why we had that massive, that's why we had that massive move to the upside. Once the polls started coming in that we would have a more market-friendly president, right, in the eyes of the markets, then that caused that massive market surge to the upside. This move was your altcoin season. This move was your altcoin season. It was that mini altcoin season that we had back in November of 2024. A 40% move for Bitcoin matches perfectly along with this drop in Bitcoin dominance that you see here on the daily. Woo, where are we? On the daily, right? So that was this time frame right here. Whoop. No. Where's November 7th? Yep, yeah, right here. This was November 7th. This was that mini altcoin season you had right there. Bitcoin went on the real run, right, just a few days later or a week later. And, altcoins started taking over and going on those parabolic runs that you guys can see whether you look at your favorite, when you look at your favorite altcoin, whatever it is under the sun, look at November 7th, November 8th and onward. That was that meteoric, parabolic altcoin season rocket shot, baby. The altcoin season rocket shot. Good to see my trade back at break even. That's very, very nice to see. Sui breaking above the 15-minute 200 SMA. A great, great feeling. We'll see how that candle closes in about 11 minutes. We'll see. Bitcoin dominance still trucking to the upside. And, we do want to see this roll over. There is a little bit of life here. You're changing market structure. As you guys can see, lower high, or lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, higher high. That is a higher high. So, you could speculate on a higher low here for Bitcoin dominance coming in at the fib. Is that going to happen? No, but the first thing that, not necessarily, but you have to speculate if you're going to change market structure. You got to put in a higher low at some point. Where's that likely to come in? At the 62% area, another 1% drop to the downside, all to a pump during this move. If that cup and handle is to come to fruition here for Bitcoin dominance, we will have to wait and see. All right, diving on into the chat. Let's hop on into the altcoins, baby. Hey, Nasty Kid, I'm sorry to hear about Jasmine, brother. But hey, you got into some good prices. I can't remember exactly where you got in. April, testing my old man memory, brother. Oh, my old man memory. But, yeah, if you want to look at Jasmine, man, just let me know. Absolutely. So I'm so sad a lot for my Jasmine today. Shout out to you, brother. Hey, thank you, everybody, for being here. It's absolutely a pleasure to serve you guys tonight on this. Oh, man, that's what I used to say. That's what I used to say when I was at Olive Garden, right? Like, I get done with the table. Let's look at XRP for Wanda. Thank you, Wanda, for hopping on in tonight. So that's what I used to say at Olive Garden. I used to work at Olive Garden before the Navy, and I'd serve tables, right? A bunch of endless spaghetti and meatballs coming out on Boys Crypto's tray, right? And everybody would be like, would you like some cheese? And I get the cheese and everything, and some people would go obnoxiously long. If you guys are one of those people that goes obnoxiously long with the cheese at the Olive Garden, re-examine yourself. Oh my goodness, you wouldn't believe like the weight of those cheese blocks, the amount of calories, absolutely crazy. Probably a reason why I have colossal back flab lab at the moment, and I have to run every single day out here in this hot Texas heat in order so that I could get hot for the summer so my lady doesn't leave me for some guy that's, 200 pounds and absolutely ripped in the abs. All right, here we go, baby. Here we go. XRP, we took a long here earlier on XRP, took a nice little scalperoo, baby. This was the move we got above the high volume node, and we took this from 242 up to 247. We got out around 247. A nice little scalp on 10X, took about, 16, 20% gain in there. It was a very, very nice move for XRP. So XRP is at a do or die zone, in my opinion. Not do or die, not do or die. But yeah, okay, I'll say it. Do or die. It is at the maximum tug of war area that XRP could possibly be in. You're at the point of control here for XRP. The point of control, man, I just got that all over my computer screen. The point of control being here at about $2.41, $2.42. I'll put that line here on my chart. Wanda, this is an incredibly pivotal area and was the basis for my long that I took earlier, that scalperoonie to the upside. This area here on the daily has to hold for XRP. Why? Because time and time again, when XRP has revisited this area, when it drops below, you get some nukage to the downside. Why? Because the maximum amount of volume has been traded on XRP since we've been in this range since late November at this exact price at about 242. More people sold up here than bought. More people bought down here and sold. And this is the average price that everybody wants to get in on XRP and get out of XRP. It is that happy medium, fair value area, the point of control, baby. And we talked about this here for XRP. XRP needs to, it is imperative that XRP maintains above this point of control for the bulls. If the XRP is to rally with the rest of the altcoin market, if the altcoins are going to get that bounce, it has to happen here, or you risk a further drop here for XRP to the next high volume node sitting around that daily 200 SMA. And the risk for XRP is relatively high right now. However, it's high because of these high volume nodes that you have down here beneath the daily 200 SMA. As long as you're above the daily 200 SMA, I have to be a bull. All of you guys know that watch the channel. But you start closing candles beneath the daily 200 MA, and we never had a full candle body close. We got close. We got a candle close, but we didn't get a full candle body, like a candle like this right here. So, XRP did respect the 200 MA on the downside, but if you break here, you could slip really, really quickly, Wanda, another 10% to the downside to about 220. With that being said, if XRP holds this area, this could be one of the most legendary long areas for XRP that you've ever witnessed. Why? Because for the first time since early March, you've reclaimed an area where the bears have won over and over, and honestly, almost every single time. Ever since the bulls have not been in control of this area, in my opinion, since the 12th of February, 2025. That was over 3 months ago? That was over 3 months ago. And you have just not only reclaimed it, Juan. I'm going to zoom on in here. The trade, the trade being right at the high volume node here. Ignore this, right? Because it's just based on the visible range. But you retested it perfectly, Wanda. That's the proof I need that the bulls are in control of that high volume node. So even opening up a long here on XRP, that's why I said, hey, we're on macro major support. If XRP doesn't get a bounce here, it's gonna be up. That's where the next higher no. That's where the next higher low is likely to come in. And if we don't retest that high volume node, there's no real chance for me of a sustained rally to the upside without showing me that the bulls have control of that area. And with that wick, you did yesterday, and you are currently right now, Wanda. You are currently right now almost lost to 1 hour 200 SMA, but that 242 area is looking strong. A lot of buy pressure in here, as evidenced by those 2 wicks right there. I see XRP reversing from here. You don't, but we're right on the high volume node. It could go either way, honestly. And I just have to keep that on your radar, Wanda, because the risk on XRP right now is so high. Why? Because think of our ball rolling down the hill scenario, right? Where is your greatest risk? It's going to be right here at this zone. Let's zoom on in here. It's going to be right here at this zone because you're retesting it, right? But if you lose that high volume node, once that ball starts rolling down the hill, have you ever rolled a ball down the hill and it came back up the hill to you? It's never happened to me. If it's happened to you, shout out to you and let me know how you did it. But yeah, that ball rolling down the hill scenario. So you're teetering on, you know, that tug of war where the Bulls and Bears have been playing. The Bears have won the last 3 times so far. They have control of the region. But, you know, with the exception of the past 3 days, you got above, you wick down. To me, that was reclamation. Reclamation, baby. That wick looked beautiful for a daily continuation for XRP, but the market pulled back, and now we're testing it again. So you're at a very high area contention here for XRP. For XRP, trade ideas, right? Trade ideas to me, if you want to get into a long now, I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea. Right, but you'd have to have your stop beneath the daily 200 SMA, right, in order for it to be safe. And you could go and shoot for the highs. That would be a nice, juicy 3-to-1 risk-reward ratio, 211 to the downside for XRP for your stop loss. That could definitely be a trade that works out for you. But the thing is, if we lose that high volume node as we go throughout the next hour and a half, 2 hours, or the next day starts opening up red and we start pushing below, to me, the Bulls would still have control, or the Bears would have reclaimed control of that high volume node, and then this trade would be at risk. With that being said, I also wouldn't be shorting. You're shorting into an area, your most macro area of support here for XRP, according to the VRVP. Just my opinions on the market. I will acknowledge that the stochastics are a little overheated right here, and pointing down pretty violently. You also have right here daily bearish divergence. If you guys can notice right here, we're zooming on in, baby. We are zooming on in. XRP making a higher high on price on the daily without, or you know, with the wicks. Take this as you will. This is daily bearish divergence to swing across. It's not very strong. Higher high on price action. Do you dip below that, 232, and then wick back up? It's at an area of high contention, Wanda, right now at this point of control. That point of control is everything for XRP, and I'll be watching that very, very closely as we go throughout the night. All right, everybody. Yeah, altcoins flying to the moon right now. Yeah, let's see here. On the hour, you are getting a little bit of a pump a lump, baby. A pump a lump. It's nice to see Sui rebounding about 2%. That's nice to see. Woo. Bubbles popping on the altcoins over the course of the last hour. Man, getting rejected at the 15-minute 200 SMA here for Sui. So we'll see how that goes. That's why it's so important to wait for candle body closures. Very, very important. But I'd like to see this crack over the next couple of hours. That is for sure. The 1 hour is that, it's kind of cooked, man. It's kind of cooked. The higher time frame still pointing violently upward. The 8 hours, you know, I'm just looking at Sui because it's, you know, the leverage play I got going and cooking right now. But yeah, XRP needs to hold this zone, Wanda. Very, very, very important. The Sin Nasty Kid wants to look at XRR or XCN. Yeah, my friend, absolutely. XCN was one of the hot ones. And was everyone not in this? What is this? Nope. We're not looking at it on that chart. No way. Onyx coin. So, yeah, here we go, baby. You want volatility? Look at this thing. Woo! Yeah, Onyx coin screaming to the upside today. Look at that 4-hour candle. That is nasty. A 13% move on the 4-hour here for XCN. And the crazy thing about XCN is when it moves, it moves. It moves. I mean, I remember a lot of people being super optimistic about this coin when it rallied 20x. A lot of people were getting up in here and got absolutely slaughtered, right? Because these people need to sell to somebody. And where did you come to? Does anybody want to bet where we came to for XCN? From the fib, from the swing low to the high. You came down, okay, you got a little bit of a reaction at the 786. I thought it'd be a 786. But the altcoins, you know, you can't get that 886 retrace. You got it perfectly, and you got that rebound to the upside. 3 days of massive pumpage here for XCN to the upside, to the top. That was a 250% 3-dayer, baby. 3-dayer for XCN. So here we are for XCN again, playing with these big, colossal candles. And, you know, let's look at this on the 4-hour. So the only way I can think to chart this, let me blow this up, right? This one's a tough one to call. That is for sure. Let's zoom on out here. And I just want to look at this range that we've been following here for XCN. Not we've been following, but XCN's been following. And to me, right, if you could say that that's a breakout. You could call that a breakout. And you're above the 4-hour 200 SMA. Are you playing 200 MA dominoes? You are. You got above the 1, you come to the 2, you come to the 3, you break the 3, you come to the 4, you break the 4, you come to the 6, you break the 6, you come to the 8, and now you're above all the moving averages. So right now, where's the daily? The daily is beneath you. So right now, XRP or XCN, when it gets those moves to the upside, they can be very, very violent because you're above every major 200 SMA. I would not chase a candle like this. Why? Because look what happens to the people who chase a candle. You chase a green candle, right? And you eventually come back I'm not saying that that's going to happen for XCN. I'd watch that 4-hour 200 SMA, and XCN's definitely going to move with BTC. Why? XCN's not a small crypto, baby. XCN's not a small crypto. Sitting at 109, what a monumental move. It's probably the biggest one here, is it not? Yeah, the biggest one here in the 100 to 200 range. That is a massive move for XCN. Started long. XCN started long, 50 minutes at 20x. 50 mins at 20x. Not 100% sure what that means. 50 minutes ago? 50 minutes ago? Yeah, about an hour ago. Yeah, you cracked that 200 MA. You got the retest, man. You got confirmation there. Looked good to me. It looks good. I mean, you get above that 200 SMA, and it's so powerful. It's so powerful. On any time frame, the 200 MA is powerful. And people will ask me, they'll be like, how do I know what 200 MA is the best 200 MA? And I don't think any 200 MA is more powerful than the other. I just know when you break one, you're likely to come and test the next. You break that, you're likely to test the next. You break that, you're likely to test the next. With a candle body closure, it's just a reality and what I've experienced through my years of my time here in the charts, baby. All right. So for XCN, could there be continuation? I will say this thing has a community like no other. Let me look at it on the daily. Man, this one's so tough. This one's so tough. Because the volatility of this coin has been absolutely insane. Now, you didn't get a 618 there. You could have said shoulder, head, right shoulder, and then, you know, they start forming that out and then squeeze the shorts to the upside when they got them all loaded up on this shoulder, head, right shoulder. This was a beautiful rounded bottom, though. Beautiful rounded bottom. Eventually, it popped at that daily 200 SMA. The daily 200 SMA is so strong, everybody. Keep that level on whatever asset that you're in. Keep that level on your charts. Keep that level in your head, because that 200 MA is the do or die zone. XCN rebounding about 200% off of it. Honestly, man, if you want to trade this, you're going to have to go on the smaller time frames. And even right now, I couldn't justify getting in a trade here, right? Because we're so, these lines are pretty vertical. You are forming a little bit of bear div, but is it really going to matter when you're on a parabolic run like this? I can't say that it will. I can't say that it will. Not when you're cracking some of the key moving averages like the 4-hour and the 6-hour. You're above all the major moving averages. I think there could be a blue skies breakout style here for XCN. You'd have to go with something like that, right? You'd have to. And the reason I'm kind of on the fence about it, right, is because this kind of move, right, this big green candle often gets eaten up to the downside. But for XCN, it's unique because look what happened down here. You had that one singular big candle that led into the monumental run back here. That 213% run. Could that just be the beginning for XCN? It definitely could be. So I'm on the fence with it. You know, you got a little bit of consolidation, a breakout of there, and you're above the 4-hour 200 SMA. Thanks for putting that on our radar, brother. If you're a scalper, if you like going on the small time frames and looking at things that are hot, XCN would be where I'd turn my attention to, baby. XCN is where I would turn my attention to. You'd have to look for flags and continuation to the upside. You know, you could get some major moves out of something that is going parabolic out of one of these patterns. Like this would be a move, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but when XCN squeezes another 8% move to the upside, it could definitely happen here for XCN. Looks juicy, and it's going to defy. Look, you had bear div right there, not respected. Bullish. You got a big move to the upside. You had bear div right here, not respected. And you got a bigger move to the upside. That shows that the bulls are definitely in control here, violating bear div on the 1-minute time frame, starting to form it on the higher time frames. But I don't know if XCN is necessarily going to care as we go throughout the night, especially if Bitcoin gets a sustained rally, looking like one of the hotter alts on the chart right now. Thank you, Synaptic Kid, for dropping that on our radar. That was a popular coin in 2024, and you know, Bitcoin cracks the highs. I would not be surprised to see XCN be one of the leaders in the space. That's for sure. Let's dive on in. Let's dive on in, baby. So you're looking good, man. You're looking good from down here. You know, you got in an hour ago. You know, you got in, man. You got in at a juicy area right there. I mean, at the same time, one candle could, you know. I would like to watch this 21. I would love to see if you saw some kind of consolidation here, brother, and the 21 comes up in the price action, you could start getting that parabolic move. That's what you want to see here for XCN. And that would be the key, man. You need some kind of parabola to start forming, right? Because it's not just going to go straight up in a line. And if it does, if it goes up straight up in a line while you're sleeping, You could get something like that. And then, you know, I would definitely recommend you set your take profits, brother. Have a plan with this. Have a plan with this going to the upside. When are you out? Because, you know, the odds of that being the bottom, it could have definitely been the bottom for sure. It could have definitely been the bottom for sure. And you shifted market structure here locally on the 4-hour time frame. Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, or higher low. And now this is your first higher high. So, you know, this could go up as high as you want, but where would I be looking to get in on XCN? Based off of this market structure shift, even if it, you know, even if it's a candle up here, I would still take my fib from swing low to swing high and be interested at a long at this 618 when it comes back down here. That would be my next move on XCN. It's just too overextended to play any kind of leverage play on from a swing position, from a swing perspective, right? From a swing perspective. So that's what I'm looking at here for XCN. Looks juicy, man. Shout out to you catching one of the hottest setups in the game. I mean, I wouldn't even say like the hottest setups, but yeah, let me know what your basis was for getting into this trade, man. What were you looking at? That 200 MA crack? Because that 200 MA crack would have been absolutely beautiful. But if you were looking at something else, let us know, man. Let us know. Yeah, the 5-minute crack, then you never look back. Interesting. Looks good. Yeah, let us know. Let us know. We went over XCN. We went over XRP. Altcoins popping, baby. April said not the cheese, the cheese. Yeah, it happens. It happens. All right. Wanda wants to look at Render. Absolutely, Wanda. I would love to look at Render. Render, one of my top altcoin holdings, and I invested in this project, baby. And I did see it taking a little bit more, but I saw a big red candle on it earlier. It was like, 3% to the downside is what it is. Happens. It happens. It happens. It's going to happen on your altcoins. If you guys aren't used to volatility, like if you think of, let me think of something. So volatility in crypto is a reality. You're going to go through it, right? And if you cannot stomach volatility and you do not have an expressed trading plan, you're going to fail. You're going to have failure, and it's the reality. Why do I know that? Because I failed in this space. I failed when I first got in. I was taking leverage trades. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd see something pump 20%. I was like, this thing's going to the moon, baby. And I'd open up a 20x leverage long and then stare at it. And then I'd go to the bathroom. I'd look at my phone, and it'd be like, wow, I was liquidated. What happened? I was that guy. And then I started swing trading spot. And then I was a disaster too, right? You guys know this. I sold Bitcoin at $17,000. I sold half a coin down there, right? Of course, I'm accumulating Bitcoin. That was one of the biggest, you know, when I look back at the biggest financial mistakes of my life, that was one of them. That was one of them, selling about half a coin, a little more than that at that price. And then you're looking at, you know, you could look through the screen at me and be like, boys, crypto, what were you thinking? And I was like, it's going down, baby. It's going down. It's going to zero. We just topped out at 60K and we're dropping. We were nuking. And I was like, I don't want to lose a lot more of my portfolio. So we pulled out, right? And I had some stuff we needed, I needed to pay for with my lady and stuff. It is what it is. But in the end of the day, if I would have held that was the bottom. That was the bottom. And today, that investment, when I look at what it cost, it probably cost me about 40 racks, 40 grand, right? And it is what it is, and we made that decision together, and we acknowledged that it could have popped, right? It is what it is. And we made the best decision for us and our family, but I've learned a lot since then. I've learned a lot since 2021. I learned from mistakes in leverage. I've learned from mistakes in spot. And now I understand. I love volatility, baby. And that's what keeps this space alive. But I've learned how to stomach it. I've learned how to manage it. And for those of you who cannot do that and have not learned that lesson the hard way, and you don't heed the advice of people who have made those mistakes before in the past, the likelihood of getting wrecked is relatively high. And I know all of you guys know what I'm talking about here in the chat, right? All of us here have made some kind of financial blunder in our lives, right? Something was a disaster. And we all know what a financial blessing was, right? Some people, invested in a house, and because of countless money printing, your house is sitting on several $100,000. Like my grandfather built his house, super awesome. And, that's super amazing. But like he was probably able to do that for the cost of a chicken and a cow, right? Like he probably traded the building materials for his house for a chicken and a cow, because back when he was a young lad, and I know I'm going off on a little tangent, but back when he was a young lad, that's what houses cost. Houses cost 5-10 grand, right? Your car would cost $500. It is. He tells me stories about paying a nickel a gallon for gas. A nickel. A nickel. That's insane. It's crazy how different the valuation of money is now today. And if you guys have ever been to any other countries in the world, if you guys have ever been to Mexico, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Their peso is so annihilated comparatively to the dollar, right? Like your dollar goes so much further there, depending on what part you go to, because your government's printed their money to absolutely nothing. You have $200 bills, $500 bills, pesos, right? And it just is so extrapolated. It's like 18 times the US dollar, and you have to pull out a calculator to figure out how much you actually owe. It's crazy. It's great. All right, let's get back on into the charts. Thank you guys for sticking with me for that through that rant. These monsters do that to me sometimes. You guys know how it is. You guys know how it is. All right, render. Falling beneath the 1 hour 200 SMA is what it is. Getting that reversal with Bitcoin right now. Okay, I acknowledge that. Let's see where else we are. We're bouncing off the 2 hour 200 SMA. So Wanda, right off the get-go, or was this Wanda? Yeah, Wanda. Right. You said, oh, you're a gambling trader. Sinesi, good shout out to you, brother. Shout out to you. I hope it worked out for you, man. I hope it works out for you. All right, so yeah, bouncing off the 2 hour 200 SMA. So to me, Wanda, you're likely going to ping pong in between this level right here and this level right here. Not likely going to, but are going to, right? Until one of these levels breaks. This is your new range, supported by the 2 hour 200 SMA and the 1 hour 200 SMA as resistance. You get above the 1 hour retest, that would look good for the long. You drop beneath the 2 and retest, and you could look for lower prices here on Render. Do I think Render's going lower? Well, I will acknowledge that Render has had one of the more extreme runs since the bottom, right? Comparatively to the other high cap coins, this thing ran over 100%. Some of the other coins have not done that. But, you know, the daily 21 coming up, and we had resistance here at that daily 200 SMA. I think Render's going to continue to the upside as long as Bitcoin could hold where it is. You know, you're making higher highs and higher lows. Where's your next higher low likely to come in? You know, that 618 could have gotten front ran, or, you know, down here in this 450, 435 to 450 range looks pretty juicy for another higher low before you go and eventually test that 200 MA. That would be a beautiful rounded bottom. Now, I know what you guys are thinking. Oh my gosh, you got rejected at the 200 MA. Can we go lower? Yeah, absolutely. Look at this. This could be a beautiful opportunity for a cup and handle, right? We've already changed market structure, you know, higher high, higher low, or lower high. Then you made an equal low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. So now the market structure is shifted. It sets up for the opportunity to get the cup and handle. It really does. It sets up the opportunity here for you to get the cup and the handle. Coming down here to the 618, 786 would not be the end of the world here for Render. And this is the reality for a lot of the altcoins right now. You could still pull back here. You can still pull back here, especially if dominance continues to rocket. Do I think that's going to happen? I think this is what a lot of people are waiting for, but I don't think the market's going to allow the vast majority of people to get into altcoins at the prices that they want. The people who got in at the prices that they want now, like perspective, right? Now, $3 Renders. Man, I wish I could have loaded up on Render at $3, like, you know, Boys Crypto in the community were doing in their box of remembrance. But now everybody wants Render at $3. Why? Because we're at almost $5 right now. So, you know, it does set up the opportunity for the cup and handle here. I think it's more likely that you get a local fib pool here from your reaction down here from your local, from your prior low to your high. I think the 618 is likely going to be your next higher low. Maybe come down just a little further, Wanda, down to that 460 region. I would not blame anybody for taking a long in here. Taking a long, scalp long, getting in here, putting that stop beneath the prior low, maybe a little deeper to prevent from any kind of stop hunt, and taking it up to 200 MA. That's almost 2-to-1. Or you could say, hey, that's definitely the bottom. We break above the 200 SMA, and I'm in it for the parabolic run, baby. That would look really, really juicy to me, right? If the trade opportunity does present itself, you know, and Render's already pulled back pretty substantially from the high, about what, 14, 15%. Altcoins could go pretty deep, 20, 25%. When Bitcoin corrects 10%, it is what it is. And the altcoins can do that and have done that in the past and will do that in the future. What was this pullback right here? About 18% to the downside. So, you know, these higher lows do come with extreme volatility, and you could catch those sniper entries, baby. You could catch those sniper entries at your fibs. That's what I'm looking at for Render. On the weekly, looks okay. You want to maintain above this, you know, you broke above this area, Wanda. And this is why I don't think you're going to get that 618, 786 from the cup and handle. You broke above this area, this key area for render, sitting at about 440, 437 or so. Let me get this out of here. Why is this area so key? Because it's a key support area that you have lost, served as resistance, nuked under, and since reclaimed. This area and the high volume node, in my opinion, Wanda, cannot be lost. Let's look at this here. Let's look at this, just this range. Let's see what the VRVP gets us. So you have the high volume node beneath you, as well as that previous support level. Support, resistance, flip, right? Support, 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 flipped under, resistance, 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 got above. Now that's your support level in confluence with that high volume node on the VRVP. So you got a decent amount of support beneath you, Wanda. The weekly's getting a little cooked, but I see some sideways action, right? I see more sideways action, a higher low coming in before that high volume node sitting around this level, Wanda, at about 440. I think that higher low will likely hold, and I think render is going to be a great hold throughout the rest of altcoin season in the event that we were to get it. I still think dominance is topped. I still think dominance is cooked, baby. I think this thing can roll over, or I think the dominance can roll over to the downside and get these things a massive parabolic run that everybody is looking for. This is like when you have fast dumps, right? You're going to have fast pumps. But what are you looking here for Bitcoin dominance? You've changed market structure, right? You've changed market structure throughout this higher high, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, lower high, higher high, low, lower high, lower low, lower low on the daily, a major lower low. On the weekly, you know, you could say that that's a higher low on the weekly, and where did you come to the 618786? So, you know, that does kind of change my bias a little bit. You're like, you dipped into the golden pocket. But on the daily here, you did change market structure. So I'd be looking for a rejection here for Bitcoin dominance coming up pretty soon. Where would I be looking from? From the swing high to the swing low. And I know it's crazy. As soon as we get up to 64%, I'll tell you what's going to happen. Everybody's going to be, yeah, Bitcoin dominance is going to start screaming to the moon. It's going to go absolutely parabolic. It's absolutely crazy. And then as soon as everybody gets that mindset again, that's when the altcoins are going to do their run, right? That's likely going to be, in my opinion, the area where the next lower high likely comes in. And then you start getting that drop, and everybody craps themselves because they didn't get in on the altcoins at some of the hottest prices. And, you know, Bitcoin dominance can pump, right? It can definitely pump. Bitcoin dominance pumped all the way up to 100K. We have to remember that. We did get a little dip in dominance, but Bitcoin dominance did pump. But the altcoins did as well. So very, very interesting. I think a lower high is likely to come in here for dominance. Let's see if we get that rollover. What's the weekly look like? The weekly's still cooked. The weekly's absolutely cooked here on the stochastics, and you got divergence. And, you know, it's crazy to see this candle recovered massively. We were down here at 62, but we were up here at 65. So, you know, I think there's going to be some chop in here. There's going to be some chop. We may come up here on a wick, right? We may come up here on a wick and then reject. I think that's more likely than not. What happened right here? Very similar situation. We had a little bit of a dump, right? We came up and did what? We rejected from a key area, right? You made that lower low and you rejected from the 786. I think that's very, very likely where we get. And of course, you know, you continue to the upside. And this was when Bitcoin had that major dump, right? This candle represents the biggest liquidation event in crypto history. Why? Because everybody gets scared of their alts and runs into Bitcoin, and Bitcoin dominance went on a 6% gain. I think that was in a single day, was it not? Yeah, this was a monumental move to the upside here for Bitcoin. You know, about a 6% in a single day. That's absolutely crazy. I still think Bitcoin dominance is top despite the candles that we're seeing right now until market structure shifts back to that higher high. You know, and the weekly, man, it does tell a different story. But there's that weekly bearish divergence. So with that weekly, if we didn't have that weekly bearish divergence right here, this swing up in price action, while we have a swing down on the RSI or a swing across in the RSI, I would be like, this could be the higher low for BTC. But the divergence is telling me a different story. Stochastics pointing downward. I think this thing just needs a little more time to cook. All right, everybody, let's hop on into the chat. Thank you. Hey, just a nasty kid, shout out to you, brother. I hope your gambling trading works out, brother. I hope it does. Sin Nasty Kid wants to look at Kaito. I saw Kaito doing some massive damage. Kaito was doing some massive damage over the course of the week. Let's see how it looks on the day. Daily getting a little bit of a bearish engulfing candle here. That is okay. Let's see what we're looking at. All right, so the first thing I'm noticing on Kaito is a set of hidden bullish divergence. Hidden bullish divergence forms whenever you're making a higher low on price action in the event that this is a low right here, while you're making a lower low on the Stochastics RSI momentum oscillator, or on the RSI, right? So that's hidden bullish divergence suggesting that you crack this high before you crack this low. That's a good sign here for Kaito, especially as the RSI, the stochastic RSI is resetting in the oversold area. You could get pinned down here. That would not be good for Kaito. And just because you have bullish divergence here, and this is on the 2-hour time frame, you have hidden bullish divergence here, doesn't mean it necessarily has to play out. I would be looking for a flag here. As you know, Kaito has been, you know, relatively strong comparatively to the rest of the market. And you could call this a flag right here. Nice little flag, pump to the upside with, as long as those stochastics start to bend and you get a reversal here. But Kaito has been trending with BTC, baby. It's been trading with BTC. A little bit of a dumpage today and a little lackluster pump with the rest of the altcoins. Even SUI starting to struggle right here on the 15-minute time frame, getting rejected by that 200 SMA. That is not what we want to see for SUI. Come on, SUI, baby. Get that pump to the upside. Get that pump a lump. Get that pump a lump. But yeah, so for Kaito, I would be looking at this flag, but everything's going to likely follow BTC in the move that it makes throughout the night. It is very, very true. Kaito has had a monumental run to the upside. Until market structure changes, I would speculate higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, higher highs. Where's your next higher low likely to come in? Let's pull a fib here and let's see where we came to. Looks like a 618, does it not? From the swing low here of this Fibonacci. Yeah, you got the 618 bounce. You know, at the bottom of a consolidation range with stochastics resetting and hidden bullish divergence. It looks okay to me, but you have to keep in mind the market cap of this coin, right? Like you could get some pretty serious swings here on relatively small time frames. So that's what I'm looking at here for Kaito. On the daily, I think we talked about this at one point. From the swing high to swing low, you dipped into the golden pocket. So it's a little bit of resistance here above you, that golden pocket resistance. It's a reality, right? You're going to have some resistance in here. People opening up shorts. It is what it is, right? It sends Kaito back to the downside a little, maybe while the 21 comes up in the price action. But that could take such a long time. And if you get a good consolidation here on the weekly, I will say that. If you do get some good consolidation here on the weekly, that could look really, really juicy for Kaito's next leg up. The problem with that, I mean, depending on how you view trading, is that could take some time. That could take, a week, 2 weeks. What does that put you at? May 26th? And we're at the 15th right now. 10 days or so of sideways price action. While the stochastics reset, not looking too bad to me. So I would kind of sit on my hands for Kaito. I'd be waiting to see if you see more price consolidation here on the daily time frame. But that 2-hour does suggest that you do get a little bit of a move to the upside with that hidden bullish divergence. Shout out to you, brother. Thanks for keeping Kaito on our radar. Looks pretty juicy. Looks pretty juicy. All right, closed XCN for a nice 2X. Hey, shout out to you, brother. Shout out to you. That's absolutely awesome. Amp for BMG Corey saying, already giving me the volatility warning. Yeah, I mean, you can say that for the entire market. Oh my goodness gracious. Yeah, let's do it, man. Amp, perpetuals on MEXC. Okay, so you got a monumental move here for Amp just a couple of days ago. Look at that candle on the 2-hour. Good night. 29% to the upside. Zooming on out. The same, same deal as, why am I losing my voice? Same deal as Kaito. Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Where's your next higher low likely to come in? A lot of that 618, 786. And you could say, oh, boys, crypto, from here to the high, we got the reaction off of the 706. But you can pull it from the swing low of this range right here. And you're sitting at the 786 right now. But this reminds me, what coin was it? It was Bounce. It was auction token. This reminds me a lot of auction tokens move. You had that monumental skyrocket to the upside, came back to the 786 looking for a reaction. We just never got it. And it was on a candle like that. Very, very interesting. You're pinned at the 2-hour. You can see over here on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, that -0 on the 2-hour time frame. That's not necessarily good. That says the bears have full control. Are you there for the 4-hour? No. The 3-hour almost pinned. The 1-hour probably definitely. Yeah, the 1-hour is pinned right now. Your mark line is pinned anyway. So you're at the 786. Honestly, you got to bounce here. You got to get a bounce off this 1-hour 200 SMA in this 886, 786 zone. To me, if you want to shoot any possibility of getting a higher low in here, yeah, that's volatile, man. That's super volatile. What's it look like on the daily? Yeah, that daily 200 SMA gave some issues right here. Interesting. You weren't able to close above the daily 200 SMA. Served as resistance once, twice, 3 times, almost 4 times there on that daily. Very interesting. You gapped up. Look at that giant gap in the VRVP. Getting stopped almost exactly at that high volume node. So I would stay away from this one, brother. I would stay away from this one for the time being and wait for some kind of consolidation. And it could be a bigger form of consolidation. That is very, very true as well, right? In the event that you do get a higher low, right? You would get a higher low here. and you're making a, a higher low or a lower high right here, you can consolidate this into a little bit of a triangle. Not as reliable, right? Not as reliable, especially with how much more downward sloping it is. But you've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 2-hour candles close to the downside. That is a disaster, brother. That is a disaster. But likely you get that many candles closing and, you could get that massive squeeze to the upside and test this upper resistance line. I would have to sit on my hands for this, man. I don't like any consolidation that I'm seeing right here. And even if you try to wiggle it to your favor, it's just not something that I'd be looking at diving on in. Just a little too volatile for my taste, brother. And you'd have to hold an 886 on a fib. You would have to. From your swing low to swing high, you'd have to hold this range right here. You start playing 200 MA dominoes to the downside, and you already are. Right? You already are dropping beneath that 15-minute 200. You drop below the 30, you're below the 30, you even bearishly retested it. Now where are you likely to go? You're likely to go to the 1 hour. The 1 hour sits beneath you. About another, that's a substantial drop, is it not? Another 2% drop to the downside. So you're playing 200 MA dominoes until one of these can catch you. The hour did catch you back here. Is it going to catch you again? Interesting. I'll keep this one on my radar, man. AMP token, baby. Yeah, it looks, it might have been some kind of news or investor diving on in or a tweet by somebody. Interesting. This token's been around for a hot minute. It really has. This token's been around for a hot minute. I remember this thing this was back in 2020, 2024. No, it's been around longer than that. It's had to have been. AMP on Coinbase, maybe? Yeah, it's been around for a hot minute. I was like, I remember this thing back in 2021. Yeah, and look at that, trading up at 6.5 cents, crazy. And you're at the lows, and to me, coins like this are never gonna revisit the highs. However, in my opinion, and I'm not saying it's a meme or anything, but like once you sold off that much, like it's difficult for me to see any kind of like all-time highs being reclaimed. Maybe there's a lot of short interest to the upside, but when it moves. Does present some pretty juicy trading opportunities, right? 248% move right there, 270% move right there. Are you gearing up for something similar? Very, very possible. But even on the daily candles, look at these daily candle swings. This is wild on AMP token. This is absolutely crazy. Look at these swings. That's a 40% candle, and then you corrected 28%. That's volatile, man. That's volatile. Hey, shout out to you, man. Thanks for putting it on my radar. A coin that I have not looked at in a very, very long time. A little bit of a double bottom there on the daily. Interesting. But I know PMG, you are a leverage trader, brother. PMG Corey, I know you're a leverage trader, man. You're looking for those juicy swings. And I don't know if I'd be touching this one where it currently stands. But very interesting. Very interesting. Thanks for putting that on my radar, man. Me too. Yeah, it's old. It's old. I wouldn't touch it, but it does have squeeze potential. That is for sure, as evidenced by these candles. Right, these are singular daily candles that have done monumental 150% move. What's this one here? 65% move in a day. You're not gonna find moves like that unless you're looking at really, really low market cap coins. And I don't know where AMP sits right now. Man, the last hour giving a little bit of back at 152. 387 million. You gotta wonder, right? Like if people started scrapping some of the projects where the teams have left, and I don't know if AMP's team is there, but it's just something interesting I thought about. If all those hundreds of millions of dollars would rotate into like the top 100 or the top 200, imagine how much more valuable these coins would be. It's absolutely crazy. Like all the meme coins, like how much money is in the meme coins, the newly generated meme coins that come from crypto? Is it new money? Is it Tether? Or are people converting soul in these new meme coins and just letting them ride, pump and dump kind of stuff? It's an interesting thought. It's an interesting thought. Interesting. But yeah, man, even on the last hour, man, since we started streaming, a little bit of struggle here in the market. XRP taking a little bit of a nosedive. Yeah, you lost that. You lost that. We just looked at that not too long ago, right? And that's the danger. That's the danger of these high volume nodes right here. You lose that level and it could get really nasty, right? Look at that daily. That is disgusting. You lose that high volume node, and you've some super danger. Now, to me, the bears have control of that node right now, and that's going to be resistance until proven otherwise. And sitting at about 242, And I'll go back and forth depending on where this daily candle closes, but the bulls and the bears are definitely at war right there. Crypto bubbles agreeing this made a bigger move. Why? Because you were sitting on the biggest support area in that chart. That was the high volume node. That was it, and you just lost it. That's why XRP took such a nosedive here in the last couple of minutes comparatively to the rest of the market or over the course we've been streaming. Absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. And you're getting oversold. Could you get a bounce? Absolutely. And this high volume node still does stand until the daily candle does close in the next hour. So could that definitely get reclaimed? Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a 1% move for XRP. Yeah, it could get reclaimed for sure. But Bitcoin's got to hold its ground. Let's look at Bitcoin real quick, and I'll jump into grass tokens for you guys. Yeah, the Bitcoin, BTC, baby, BTC. All right, catching a little bit on the 5-minute time frame here. Yeah, a little bit of a pullback throughout the stream. It is what it is. It is what it is. Dominance probably continuing to rise. Just something I wanted to keep my eye on. Just something I wanted to keep my eye on, baby. And I'll tell you guys this. There's going to be a moment. There's going to be a freak out moment, right? Because eventually, all it would take is 2 big 4-hour candles to test the highs. Like 2-3 candles like this, a 12-hour time frame. You go to bed, you wake up. A 5% candle would put us there, right? A 5% candle would put us at 108. Like 12 hours could do it for Bitcoin. We could be revisiting the highs, and the altcoins could be going on a run when nobody suspects it. And that's the reality of where we stand right now. And I get why people are fearful, of it being a double top. But at the same time, you got to be fearful in the other direction too. You got to be fearful to be like, am I going to miss it, right? Am I going to miss it? And the bulls know, and the market makers know that, baby. They know that. I would not be surprised to see a sweep of the lows and then go to the high. Would that not look like something that they like to do? Interesting. Very interesting. All right, let's dive on in. Grass, yeah. So a sweep of those lows is definitely on the table, and that's why I'm on a low leverage position, baby. Low leverage. 3x, I'll scale in, add to the position in the event that we were to fall down a little further on suit. The reason I'm building that leverage position is because I think it's going to be one of the hottest performers over the course of alt season, but we don't even know if we're going to get alt season yet. We're still in that, we're still in that zone. I still think that Bitcoin dominance has topped, but retraces to the upside are very, very natural, and the altcoins will take a little bit of a punishment while Bitcoin dominance does scream to the upside in the event that it does continue to do that. So, here we are for grass. Grass had whoa, what in the world? Let's look at it on the daily. Man, grass had a pump. This is 3 days of price action here. Shout out to you guys who like being in the altcoins. This is what you live for. 62% pump to the upside, followed by a 22% pump to the downside. What I am liking about it right here. First of all, you're above the high volume node, right? You're above this high volume node. The point of control, very important here for grass. And this is the daily candles that we're looking at. So it could be a little bit of swinging in here. And I remember grass back in the day. Hold on, let me see. Grass on MEXC. Yeah, this thing was a hot runner. Back here, at the end of November when, Trump was taking, I don't remember what happened to it. I don't know what happened to it. Could have just went into consolidation of it, but, struggled with the rest of the altcoins is what it is. All right, so for grass, this would be the consolidation that I'd like to look at and also this, top area right here. So you could argue, hey, is this a breakout and a retest? It's something that's on my radar. That is definitely for sure. You bottomed down here at about 137, about 50% up since then. If you go all the way to the highs, that's a monumental 73% move. Could just be retesting this trend line. That could be a really, really juicy area to long grass, especially after all the late longs got taken out. And you're kind of sitting on, if I put this line here, resistance, 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 and you got above, is this going to be support? This next 56 minutes to me is going to be key for grass. If you could close above some of these candles right here, and you can confirm that support resistance flip, I see more upside for grass. I think a lot of it's still gonna weigh on Bitcoin, despite it being altcoin season. I can't stress that enough. Despite it being altcoin season, it's still Bitcoin running this show, baby. It's still Bitcoin running this show. Man, we continue to roll over here. Good night. That's absolutely horrible to see. I do not want to see that here. For XRP continuing to bleeding bad, bleeding very, very bad. All right. Yeah, I want to see grass hold this level, baby. I want to see grass hold this level in order for continuation to the upside. Do I think that's likely as Bitcoin is dumping? Is it really even dumping? No, it's not even like that's what's crazy. Like Bitcoin dominance is pumping so hard that even just a little fart on the 5-minute candle is causing the alts to absolutely capitulate. Bitcoin dominance, baby. This thing has to be screaming on the 1-minute. And it is. Look at this monumental uptrend you got for Bitcoin dominance. This thing is screaming very, very violently to the upside. And you know, you changed market structure. I can't ignore that. You changed market structure. I still think a higher low is likely to come in. I don't think we just scream to the upside. Could we? Yeah, absolutely. But man, that is a crazy uptrend. And notice how the 21 is keeping with price action right here, supporting it this entire way up. Support, 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 support. Came below, got back above, support, support, and now we're booming further. That is a move for Bitcoin dominance and screaming on the 15-minute time frame. That is absolutely wild to see. All right, diving on in. Yeah, Grass token looks pretty good as long as it could hold where, if it could hold where it is when Bitcoin is just stealing the show right here. Come on, Suey. Get that pump, baby. Get that pump back to the upside. This is carnage, man. This is carnage for the altcoins. It's crazy. Crazy to see. Virtual's even taking a pounding to the downside. And I still think, like, put it in perspective. Look at this week. This week, right, 7 days ago was a completely different story. You know, we got some massive moves on the altcoins this week. Really, really good to see. You're going to want to see a bounce here on Bitcoin. Good night. XRP is absolutely capitulating here. 235. That high volume node is everything to this coin. And the bear is definitely starting to take back a lot right here. And I know a lot of people, shout out to the XRP community making some of the hottest gains in the space. I can't acknowledge the downside of XRP so much right now. It's going on a run like nothing else. 5x, right? 5x since November. If this thing starts losing key levels, this thing could really, really bleed and give money back to a lot of the coins that really haven't ran yet. It's just one of my personal beliefs. And I think, you know, the charts are kind of backing that up right here, falling beneath the high volume node. Very interesting. Still above the daily 200 SMA. That does show strength, but I did not want to see that high volume node take a L right there. Take a L. All right, everybody, let's dive on in. Grass, it's Solana's layer 2. Yeah, so if Solana does well, then Grass is going to do well. That is very, very, very likely, right? Grass. I really like that consolidate. I like this consolidation. I do. I got to give it validity. It's not going to hold. It's not going to hold in the event that... Bybit kind of tells a different story. That's kind of your trend line right there. 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch. You got above, and now you're back inside. Maybe a bit of volatility here in the short term for Grass. And, you know, this triangle is going to be massive. Eventually, when you do get the breakout, you got the break. It was a false breakout, right? As proven by the wick. And you did not close a full candle body outside of this pattern. That would take you to 0, right? Not saying that that's going to happen. But, you know, the upside pump for Grass right here would have you revisiting the highs, about an 87% move from where you currently stand here for Grass. USDT dominance, what are we looking at here? It's starting to pump a little bit over the course of the stream. You want to see rejection here at the 5-minute. You don't want to see USDT tether dominance pumping and Bitcoin dumping, and that's going to hurt the altcoins really, really bad. All right. Yeah, so Grass, I'd keep that on my radar. You're testing the upward resistance line right here. 1, 2, 3 touches. That'll be the 4th one, falling back inside the pattern. May have to look for a 61876 here for a juicy entry. Where are you going to get that? Back down in here about 159. That's still a substantial drop from where you are. So these altcoins are kind of in danger as we go throughout the night. That is true. The altcoins are in danger. It's nice to see the 1 minute when it turns green. You're like, yes, yes, yes. We got a little bit of a pump, baby. We got a little bit of a pump. But yeah, let's see if Bitcoin dominance can start rolling over. Getting a little overbought. Really heated here on the RSI indicator. Interesting, interesting. All right. Do I think 230 is a entry on XRP? So, to me, I always look at supports and resistances as they are what they are until they prove that they aren't, if that makes sense, right? Like, I wasn't going to get into my, I shouldn't say that. I'm not going to say that. All right, or what I was thinking in my mind. All right, so 230 here. You know, sweep of those lows. Is that your fib? Looks like your fib. That'd be your 618786, and you got a high volume node underneath you as well. That may not be a bad entry. I will say this on the macro, though, just the danger you have being underneath this high volume node. To look for a long right here would not have been a bad idea, in my opinion. And, we got the scalp, stop to break even, and then we took profits, right, when we did get that move, but it was super lackluster. Super lackluster. You want to see XRP close in the next 50 minutes above $2.41. Can that happen? Absolutely. Bitcoin gets a pump and dominance starts to roll over. You could definitely get that move. But man, it's some carnage in the market right now. That is for sure. I want to see it close leading the high volume node. The more that the bears start winning in this area, to me, just gives me the weird feeling about XRP right now. And I know I was super bullish earlier, right? Getting that bounce, and we took the move. But right now, being underneath that high volume node, if I longed right now, or I longed even at 230, you're sitting beneath that high volume node. If you're looking for a scalp, possibly, right, out of that 618, 786, sure. That does seem like a good area, a reasonable area where you could get that juicy bounce. Yeah, but if that high volume node rejects, and you're losing the 1 hour 200 SMA, if that high volume node rejects again, your downside risk, if you crack that daily 200 SMA, is very substantial, PMG Corey. Just my opinions on the market, brother. Just my opinions on the market. I put so much weight on that line right there. Like, I put a lot of weight on that line. That is like next to the 200 MAs for me, right? And right now, you're falling beneath the key 200 MA, the 1 hour time frame, right? So you're likely to come to the 2. We zoom on in here. And you fell beneath the high volume node. To me, that screams bearishness. And of course, you could get a bounce and start reclaiming these levels. Of course, that's happening. But until proven otherwise, I think 230 is going to be your next level, man. Yeah, that could be a good juicy entry, right? If you get that bounce off the 2 hour, it served as bounce points once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. It served as a very key area of support ever since we gotten above it, right? So you could be looking for a reaction off of there, and I don't think 230 would necessarily be a bad entry, brother. That's a very interesting call. But being beneath the high volume node on the VRVP, and I'm not looking to scalp the smaller time frames, not tonight, man. Not after the wick saw that we saw today. Today was a hard trading day. If you were in the charts today and you were trading with me, baby, you guys are sweating almost the entire day. Staring at the screen, squinting your eyes, getting bloodshot. Woo! It was a wild ride. It was an absolutely wild ride. All right, yeah, hey, thanks, man. Hey, I appreciate you dropping that on in. Yeah, if you guys think of a trade setup or something you guys want me to go over on the live, and I'm just going to give you my opinions on the market. I could be totally wrong. XRP could rally from here to $3 and reclaim that high volume node and absolutely rip the Valhalla. It's the reality, right? The volatility of the market that we're currently sitting in. So, yeah, I mean, we were pretty cooked. But a pullback and, the next leg up, could be really, really massive for XRP in the event that we could reclaim that high volume node. But right now it's serving as resistance, and that 21 is curving on the 4 hour. Just gives me a feeling of just stay on the sidelines for now, man. Just stay on the sidelines for now, in my opinion. You could also get that shoulder, head, right shoulder here. Shoulder, head, right shoulder. Potentially brings you down to the downside. Sweep those lows and then get back, That's also a potential setup right there. And, if you did get something like that, that would also be from the lows that you formed back here when Bitcoin was getting absolutely annihilated. And yeah, that would set you up for a shoulder, head, right shoulder coming down to the 618 and a bounce. You could definitely get that as well. So a lot of indecision right now for me on XRP. I'd be staying on the sidelines because to me, indecision is just gambling, right, Sin Nasty Kid? Indecision, brother, indecision. So I don't want to hop on into a gamble, if you will, in what I view as what would be a gamble. Could it rip? Absolutely. 230 could be it's a nice fib level. You have a reason for getting into the trade as long as you have good risk reward and you understand that the high volume node does sit above you, and that's a likely area of resistance if you're taking profit before then on a higher leverage scalp. Yeah, of course, that could be a great entry as long as you're using good risk reward, man. But if you're looking for a longer term swing trade, I would have to see a break and a retest of that high volume node for sure. The pump, yeah, that pump tells you yesterday that the eyes are on. Yeah, that's true for grass, absolutely. Yeah, all right. So, cake, baby. What's cake? Cake. I thought I was reading that wrong. Are you saying that I'm caked, or you want to look at cake, baby? Cake on Binance. I know this was a meme coin that came out not too long ago. So Cake, unlike everything else, right, that we viewed, with the exception of XRP, you're above your daily 200 SMA. This is support right here until proven otherwise. That daily 200 SMA sitting at 225 is barely holding you up by the skin of your nuts right now. And that looks okay. That looks okay to me. To me, consolidation right here. consolidation, and you're in a range. It could be a bigger range though. Yeah, that does look a lot of Chop City price action in here, and the swings are massive on this range. 100% swings. That's carnage. That's carnage. That to me would be very, very difficult to trade, and not something I'd be looking to trade. With that being said, you're above the daily 200 SMA. That's going to be your area. That's going to serve as your local support. You want to see a daily candle closure above that in the next 44 minutes, right? You want to see that candle close. You're not going to get a green close, highly unlikely, right? Up here at 238, and that'd be awesome if you did. That would be a one heck of an hour-long candle, but you want to see it close above 225.38. You want to see it, like, you start losing these 200 MAs every time you even close just barely beneath it. Like, it's just something that you get that close right there, and then boom, to the downside. And you can say, oh, we got that rejection right there. Not a whole candle body. Get that whole candle body close above and rip. The 200 MA just has so much strength, so much power to me. Much love to you guys. Hey, I appreciate you guys dropping your coins in the chat. Yeah, that's some crazy price action right there. If you guys are trading that, shout out to you guys. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. I get some water here. Dry uvula syndrome. And the altcoins getting no love, continuing the dump to the downside. Absolute capitulation in the market here ever since we started streaming about an hour ago. Look at this, about 3% to 5%, 2-3% pullback. And a lot of the hotter altcoins, SUI back at 383. Not what we want to see, just everything starting to give back. Look at this on the day. Even though Bitcoin, right, is sitting at 103. BTC sitting at 103. It's wild to think that, yeah, 103.4. Like this candle, like, has a 0.08% of a change today, right, for Bitcoin. This candle is absolutely nothing. We opened up the day right where we ended. We opened at 103.4, and now we're at 103.4. But the altcoins bled badly. Bled badly to this altcoin card, or to this Bitcoin move today. Dominance definitely taking a bite back. Interesting, man. I love when you get that 1 minute. It's like, wow, big boobles, baby, big boobles. You want to see this turnaround sooner rather than later. You're just getting some pretty serious retracements on the 4-hour time frame. Some rollover signs, but Bitcoin continues to hold up. I still think if Bitcoin goes and tries to attack the highs, that all these alts are going to go with it. But man, if Bitcoin does a couple more of these, right? Even if how much are the altcoins going to bleed here? Is dominance going to recover to the highs? You know, we called the top, and we got a move out of it, but was that the top? And you know, there's no guarantees in trading. But man, if Bitcoin starts to lose the sauce here, you got to wonder if the altcoins are going to massively dump. Gap in the VRVP down to 94. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, it's just a crazy market to be in, everybody. It's a crazy market to be in. Cake and Grass started longing 12 hours ago. And you know, 12 hours ago. Yeah, so you're probably right back to where you entered. On Grass, anyway. Cake, same way. Cake right back where you entered. Or pretty close to it, right? Within a couple of cents. You really want to see that daily candle close above 225.38. You're right on it right now. But yeah, so if I were to call it like throughout the night, it's so hard to do that because we're above the 15. Let me get this out of here. We're above the 15-minute 200, right? But Bitcoin's starting to roll over, and it seems just like little this is just a couple $100 for Bitcoin. You want to see these altcoins start to respond to the Bitcoin pumpage. We've had lackluster pumps and massive dumps for the altcoins today. The bubble's just screaming bearishness. This is not what we want to see, everybody. Whiff down 15%. Look at that, taking it back. Very interesting. But yeah, everybody, that's what I'm looking at going on into the market here tonight. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me and chilling with me here on this Thursday night. We don't have a lot coming on in the market tomorrow. U.S. economic calendar, real quick. I didn't see anything earlier that said any kind of major news coming out. U.S. economic calendar, baby. The 16th tomorrow. Yeah, nothing that's really, I think, yeah, consumer sentiment, but that's kind of a nothing burger to me. May move the traditional markets a little bit, and Bitcoin may respond to that, but you really, really want to see Bitcoin start holding up on these. You're in such a tight range. We have a double bottom, but we have a double top. I just see us ranging. And I would put alerts here and here. I would put alerts here at 1015. Hope we don't get to 1015. You do not want to see 1015 on Bitcoin tonight for your altcoin's sake. If we get down here and you're looking for a short on Bitcoin, you start losing that 200 MA and we start nuking to the downside, you could look at a retest of that and short it. But on that flip side, it would just take 2-3 hour, 1 hour candles, you know, and over the course of the weekend, you could get the all-time high. That's the reality we currently sit in, and that uncertainty is really rocking the market right now. Much love to each and every single one of you guys tonight. Thank you for hanging out with me. Much love, much love. Thanks for supporting me and the channel. I'm going to go on a date with my lady tonight and get away from these carnage, charts, man. These carnage charts. I want to get away. I want a little vacation. So we're going to go out and get some dinner, and we're going to be hanging out. Take your wives out. Take your girlfriends out. If you guys haven't done that, make sure to do that. Get her some flowers. I'm giving you guys the sauce. Or I'm going to give you guys the sauce. Let me tell you guys this. I'm going to tell you guys the secret, right? I'm not going to tell you guys how April and I met, right? Did it have something to do with me being in the gym and her, you know, being a little irresistible, you know, her looking at me and being like, wow, that guy's irresistible? Sure, maybe, right? Hypothetically thinking, she came over to me, she was like, you're the most beautiful man I've ever seen. Yeah, I'm not going to say that, right? I'm not going to dive on into our personal story. However, I'll tell you what, you guys know that, what's the phrase the kids use? The Riz? The Riz? Let me give you guys the Riz, right? The Riz. I hope I'm using that right, and it's not some kind of sexual term. So let me give you guys the Riz. You guys are out at work one day, right? And you guys bring home the flowers. You bring home the flowers. You got to don't get those cheap ones from the grocery store, right? Well, okay, I get the flowers from the grocery store all the time, but not the cheap ones from the grocery store. Get the ones that are like, you know, you don't want to get like that $60 vase where you're getting absolutely ripped, right? Absolutely not. No way. You want to get the ones that are, you know, fairly valued for what you're getting. So like a bouquet of roses, you know, $15, $16. You don't want to pay $60 for a small little glass. I'm not going to get ripped off like that, right? I might as well just throw that $60 into a 100x short or a 100x long and try to catch a lotto. So get those flowers, baby. Bring them home to your lady. And you know what all ladies like that I've realized? I've realized all ladies like this, regardless of whether they're lactose intolerant or not. Get some fruit and get some cheese and put it in a nice organized fashion. If you guys don't know what organized is, look it up on Google. I struggled with it when I was starting, right? Like organization. If you guys are single, you guys may not even know what that word means. However, when you get in a relationship, shout out to you, Nasty Kid. I know you know what I'm talking about. But you get that organized, those apples, you slice them with the cutter and put those apples, right, in a little organized pattern. Make a nice little pattern with the cheeses. Not just any cheese. Don't go and get some American deli cheese and just slap it on a cutting board. Use the cutting board as your plate. Flowers. Get some fruit, some cheese. Lay it out on a little board. Bring her up there and be like, my lady, hey, I love you. This is something for you. And I was inspired by your beauty today. Bring her that charcuterie board style and flowers. Melted like butter, baby. Melted like butter. I'm telling you guys, I'm giving you guys the free sauce. People pay a lot of money for that. I'm just saying that's the move. And I'm not saying for you guys that want to get lucky, because that is not the goal, men. That is not the goal of wooing women. However, your odds will dramatically go up, right? Like your odds it's like going from American roulette to European roulette, to speak your language, Nasty Kid, the gambling way. You get rid of that 100 and your odds of hitting are much higher. Or not maybe much higher, but maybe a little higher. I'm telling you guys, it'll go in your favor. All right, no flowers, just take a $100 gamble. Oh my goodness. Nasty Kid, I'm telling, just try it once, man. Just try it once. And get ready for the action. I mean, get ready for love. Get ready for love. All right, much love, everybody. Thank you for hanging out with me here on your Thursday. I'll be bringing it to you guys fresh tomorrow night on the Boys Crypto Show. Until then, I'll see you guys. Keep up to date on my Twitter at BoysCrypto102. Until then, Boys Crypto is out, baby. I will see you guys tomorrow night on the live. Much love, much love. Thank you for hanging out with me tonight.